Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer. And today with me, I have an amazing human being, amazing lady. Her name is Florence Gichuhi. Did I say that right, Flo?
Yes, you did.
All
Yes,
right. Very good. Very
you
cool.
did.
All right. Flo has been an amazing member of the community. I've enjoyed her presence, and I thought that it's important for you guys to learn a little bit more about what she does and why this is an important topic. So, Flo, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got involved doing it? And then we can go from there.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. And something we have in common with you is that people call me the teen whisperer. When they call you the parenting whisperer, I'm a teen whisperer. I
Awesome.
work with teenagers and parents, and how I work with them is I help them move from power struggle, overwhelm, and frustration into creating a harmonious, confident relationship. And how I got involved with this work is I have three girls who am proud to say that they have been my training ground in working with teenagers. I've homeschooled them. This is our 19th year, and that has been a journey of learning to parent and to talk to teenagers.
Well, I don't know which one is more difficult, whispering parents or whispering teenagers. I think both of them have their challenges. But
Yeah.
so given the fact that you have experience with your daughters and you've gone through this journey, what are some of the things that you notice being trouble areas or challenge areas that you have struggled with and dealt with?
Yeah, one of the biggest struggle area that I've seen is communication. The group that I work mostly with is teenagers of people who from other countries in the diaspora who are parenting in the diaspora,
Mhm.
and the cultural barrier and the communication has been the biggest issue, where the parents are trying to adjust into a new culture and at the same time trying to bring up teenagers in another culture. That has been the biggest struggle.
Right. I believe you're originally from Kenya, and I know that
Yes.
I grew up in Iran, and basically, as an immigrant family, when we came over here, there was what you just described. And in fact, I do recall having a discussion with my parents that they said, "We brought you here, we did as much and as best as we could, but
Yes.
you need to kind of now stand on your own feet and figure it out because this is a foreign land to us, and we don't know exactly what to do." But it has its challenges. So yeah,
Yes, it
we
does.
relate to that. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that being said, though, as a parent, it's not easy to say, well, go out there and find your way, not knowing exactly what's out there. So where is the communication and how do we start this, especially in such families?
The approach that I take is that the same one I took with my homeschooling journey. We learn with the teenagers, coming to their level, actively listening to them. And if you don't understand anything, I always like to tell them, just reflect what you heard for clarity and for understanding. And I believe that's the first journey or the first foundation to having a good communication with your teenagers.
Okay. So I actually need to kind of go back because we are talking about communication. One of the things I often hear when it comes to communication is intention and what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? And
Yes.
when it comes to teenagers, especially, you're talking about kids that are trying to establish their own identity.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to figure that out in the first place, let alone be able to communicate it. And if we are coming from different backgrounds, that identity could be vastly different than the identity of me, myself, in eighth grade when I was in Iran versus in 10th grade when I was here.
Yeah.
Very different identities. So how do you communicate that? And how do you start a dialogue like that with teens about it?
It comes with first and foremost and helping them identify and learn the language of feeling. Because what I have come to learn is that teenagers or children or anybody learns their feelings with the language that is dominant to them. So once you start there and they learn to identify their own feelings and name them, then they can be able to communicate to their parents that this is how I feel, and this is what is what this is how you are showing up. And it also comes with understanding from both the parent and the teenager that communication has to be an open and two-way traffic.
What you just mentioned is very foundational, in the sense that when you're talking about feelings, like cultures can change, careers can change, identities can change, but feelings reflect values. Feelings come
Yes.
from what is important to you. And this is the beginning of what I tend to call spirituality. Now, some people might get religious about this. Like, if it's fine if you want to go in that direction, but for most people, feelings are the precursor for identifying what they stand for or what they stand against in life. So being able to have teenagers discover these feelings and communicate that to the world develops their leadership skill in not only their own life, but also in their community. So I'm really happy that you're actually bringing this as the starting point, because many times with human beings, they have a feeling, and contrary to popular belief, they think that there has to be a reason for the feeling, but
Yeah.
oftentimes the feeling is inside, and then you
Yes.
look for confirmation of it on the outside. So
Yeah.
it's starting with the feeling is a really important point, and then understanding communication about those feelings, really, really important. Cool.
Yeah, and I love the way, if I may say, I love the way you said, you use the word values, emotions and values. They tell your values, because sometimes if you don't know what your values are, you cannot understand your goals.
Right.
So once teenagers understand that they have to tie their goals to their values, then they thrive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is another important point, because they're starting to think about careers, paths in life. And if you choose a career, if you choose a job, many of us end up in places later on in life. It's like, how did I get here? And
Yeah.
despite success, despite whatever is going on around you, you find yourself to be unhappy because you never took the time to discover the values that were important to you to set your goals in accordance to your values. So I'm loving this conversation.
Absolutely.
And it's such an important thing for parents to be able to empower their children to find these things in this critical stage so that they don't have to have a midlife crisis later on. So
That's true. Yes.
I
Yes.
love that. All
Yeah.
right. So, having said that, how do we open the dialogue? Feelings are oftentimes volatile, expression of feelings. So, where do we go from here?
The first thing that I do with teenagers is I ask them to create what I learned to create, like an emotion portfolio, you want to say. Just sit down with, I normally sit down with them and then ask a question like, what made you hopeful today? And once they start talking, that becomes like a bridge to where we want to go next.
Mhm.
Because if they can identify how they experienced the day, that helps them to dig deeper into the conversation about feelings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I like the aspect that you open it, but you let them lead it.
Yes.
And in that process, they're not feeling like they're being preached to. And yet, this is another session where you have to sit down
Yeah.
and listen.
Mhm.
All right. So that's the beginning part. Now, what are some of the challenges from the parents' perspective that oftentimes you hear?
How much time do we have? Some of the challenges is parents understanding or not understanding how their own childhood upbringing interferes with the parenting that they are in now. That's
Mm,
one of the barriers. Another one is the tone of voice, how we speak to our children. Sometimes, like I grew up, the look told me what my mom is feeling, but teenagers in this, we're bringing them here, they don't understand the look. So that is a communication there that, the parents need to understand that even the nonverbal communication speaks differently to the teenager than it did when we were growing up. That has been one of the barriers.
Okay. I know our time is short, so let's go right into some tips and tricks that we can start implementing some of these things and move forward.
Yeah, one of the tips to avoid power struggle is to one first and foremost understand that you as a parent, your values can be very, very different from your children. So what you need to do is when you're speaking to your child, come to their level. Depending on how old they are, come to their level and be very intentional in speaking. Any communication, communicate to understand. That is number one. Number two, like I mentioned before, if you don't understand anything, reflect back what they said. Sometimes all it takes is just the last three words. Honey, I heard you say A, B, C, D. Did I get that correct? That is you seeking clarity. That way you're on the same page. And also, when it comes to creating boundaries, because kids will always push boundaries, parent with them. Don't just impose boundaries on them or what I want to call quote unquote discipline or punishment. Have them in the conversation. That way, when it comes to when they break that boundary, they will be more willing to work with you and they'll be understanding because you are parenting with them, not over them.
Yeah. Okay. Really cool. All right. So you mentioned something about boundaries, and I kind of want to go back to this, which is teens are trying to figure out their own set of boundaries and they don't want to be bound by your boundaries, right? Uh, so what are some of the things, because many of the parents that are struggling or dealing with a teenager might have siblings that are younger. So is there anything that they could do earlier on to make sure that this transition period where the teens are establishing their own boundaries and they don't want your boundaries, they at least there is respect or there is an easier transition basically for the younger kids and parenting them?
Yeah, sometimes okay, it all boils down to communication. Help them understand why that boundary is there. Once they understand, then there'll be less resistance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a real, I know, I remember when I was growing up, my mom always used to say, if you just take the time and explain it to this guy, he will follow up because he understands the reason behind it. But if you just tell him
Yes.
to do something, he's not going to listen. So that was me in a nutshell. So
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
very cool. All right. Flo, I know because of the time shortness, this topic is something that parents are hungry to get more information. So how can they connect and learn more about what you do and find out about your community?
Yeah, to start with, thank you so much. You can find me on the website. I have a website, unlockedgreatness.com. And if you're on Facebook, it's just Florence Gichuhi. That's Gichuhi.com. And on Facebook, you can find me there.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Yeah.
So community families, please make sure that you go to the bottom, click more on the description box and you will see all of the information. In fact, Flo has given me a lot more than we just mentioned. And click on those links and check them out. It's an important thing for us to role model the behavior that we don't have to have all the answers and it's okay for us to ask for help to our children. And also to teach them that the world is not a big bad place and that there are people that are good. They're genuinely interested in making the world a better place, genuinely interested in supporting us. And we need to practice reaching out on a regular basis and connecting with other human beings. So please make sure you connect with Flo. Please make sure that you connect with us by clicking subscribe on the channel so you get notification of all the experts and the gifts that they bring to the channel. And Flo, before we finish, any final words for our audience members?
Well, the final word I can come up with is that you are the best parent for your child and you know what's best for your children and you've got this.
Oh, I like that. You
Yeah.
got this, guys. You got this.
You got this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And until next time, guys, cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.